Welcome to Becoming is Messy, where we dive deep into the journey of survival, transformation, and everything in between. I'm your host, Megan Dawson, here to share the honest, unfiltered stories behind my own process of becoming. Becoming is Messy is brought to you by the Unperfect Life Collective, a growing movement rooted in authenticity, wholeness, and the courage to live what's real. Life isn't a pretty and perfect straight line, and neither is becoming the person we're meant to be. Here, we embrace the ups, the downs, and all the beautiful, chaotic, messy moments that shape who we are. Whether you're in the thick of change or reflecting on past transformations, this space is for real conversations about what it means to grow, stumble, and rise again. So get comfy, settle in, and let's get messy. Welcome back, Messies. So excited to have you here for another conversation. This one is rooted in the Level Up competency, examine your childhood as an observer. Because so much of how we parent, communicate, react, handle stress was learned long before we became adults ourselves. And when we begin to understand our own nervous systems, patterns, and triggers with compassion instead of shame, everything begins to shift. Today, I'm so excited to be joined by Becky Funk, creator of the Safe Place Parent Model, nervous system regulation coach, former educator, mom, and self-described recovering anxious perfectionist. Through her work, Becky helps parents move beyond power struggles and disconnection so they can build relationships where their teens actually feel safe enough to talk, connect, and be seen. Becky, welcome to Becoming is Messy. I'm glad you're here.
I'm so excited to be here and talk with you today.
Yeah, we're going to have fun.
Yes.
Help us set the stage for our conversation today and just tell us a little bit about this current season that you find yourself in.
Oh gosh, so the current season I find myself in is perimenopausal.
Oh, welcome to the club.
Yes,
Yeah,
I feel
fun.
like I can more so why I walked into the room and, chasing all the things. And what is it? Is it age? Is it perimenopause? What's going on right now?
Yes,
That's my season.
very true. Oh my gosh, I feel like listeners right now, I feel like so many of us are relating. That is such like a phrase that triggers so many thoughts by saying
yes,
that. So
and
we feel you right now, girl.
Right, I'm like, you don't need any more than that. Just sets the stage.
No, we get it. So, all right, now walk us backwards. Yes. Every becoming story has its own messy path. What were some of the twists and turns that led you to this current season?
Oh, I got so many twists and turns. Starts 49 years ago when I was...
honestly, though, kidding aside, we talk a lot about there's some things in childhood that just tell us so much about who we are in this moment. Right. So, feel free to give us some beats from back then and just some of those highlights that stand out because those are so important.
Yeah, I was always a very anxious child. And this was before anxiety was something we talked about, right? I was a very emotional child. And growing up in the 80s, my parents just, you got to develop thicker skin. Don't wear your heart on the sleeve. All of those things we heard to say, learned how to deal with it. So you can imagine that my high school years were kind of a hot mess. Navigate friendships and relationships, the whole 9 yards. It just seemed to be a very dramatic thing. It just followed me everywhere. And college wasn't exactly much better, although I was learning and growing and maturing. And I remember, it's such a funny story. I was a teacher. I was a high school teacher. And I had got the book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. You remember that book way back in the day?
Of course.
And I was like, I have to get a handle on this because I am losing it over everything. And that book really helped. The one thing that stuck out to me was, is this going to matter in 5 or 10 years? Like all the small stuff that I was struggling with. But I lost that book when my classroom flooded. And my pipe burst right over my desk and I lost that book. But that was such a pivotal moment for me in kind of learning who am I going to be as an adult. This anxiety and this stress that I'm not managing well. So I decided to start doing something about it and thought I was in a really good spot. And then the next big whammy I had, well, I guess it's not a big whammy, but I had my kids at 27 and 29. And the pregnancies were extremely difficult. And
Mm.
after my second was born, I was 30. And I remember telling myself, once he's sleeping through the night, I will be able to XYZ. And I
Right.
just never got my energy back. And I realized I was sleeping 16 hours a day, raising two tiny babies. And the 8 hours I was awake, I was not functioning well. And I ended up with a diagnosis of POTS at the time.
Mhm.
And so that just was, I don't want to say it was like a punch to the gut. It was like, good, there's something wrong with me. Learn through all of this and what is going on. And now looking back, I know there's a lot of research that's being done on POTS, and I thankfully don't struggle with it anymore. We had a prayer service one night at the church I was attending. And it was a healing service. And I went down like, okay, fine, we've done this many times. Like, what's it going to be? But it was a very different experience. And after that, POTS had the nickname, at least at the time. It was the Grinch syndrome.
Oh,
And
no.
but the Grinch was always my favorite Christmas
Oh, I love
cartoon,
that.
and my Valentine's Day. So we always just made this big thing about me having a heart that was a Grinch. And so I was at this prayer service and the pastor prayed over me and I could just feel this, like everything changing. My chest hurt for a few hours and I was like, okay, well, that's anxiety, whatever. But after that, like I went off the exercise protocol that my doctor had me on. I stopped eating or salt all the time and drinking I stopped everything I was supposed to be doing and I was fine. And I had just tried that
Wow.
too. I tried going off the medication and just like, I'm done with this, right? And I
Yeah.
really wasn't. So these were like big pivotal moments of like, I've got to get this anxiety under control. I have to figure out what's going on. And now this big life-changing gift, was given to me where I don't have to struggle with this POTS anymore. And I was able to show up for my kids in, the way that I had wanted to. But that kind of, just walks you through, like all of these life things. How am I going to handle all of this stuff in raising my kids? So those were kind of some big things that brought me to this point. My oldest was diagnosed. Everybody's like in the world of, the pandemic, and my son was diagnosed with 2 brain infections. So he had a Lyme infection and a strep infection. So PANDAS and PANS, if anybody is familiar with that. And so I thought I had my anxiety under control, right? I have done all this
so
healing.
true.
Everything was good. Let me tell you, got my butt handed.
Right.
Yeah, I took it to a whole new level where I developed chronic back pain.
Yeah.
It was really bad. And I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. I have to figure this out. And I was seeing a counselor through the entire thing. And she had mentioned the vagus nerve to me and kind of looking at my
Yes.
nerve. Yeah. And I did a master class with a woman out of Australia, and it literally has changed my life.
Yes.
Just
Right.
broken, right?
Oh my
You-
gosh, I have goosebumps. I relate to
Yeah.
this so much. I just addressed my vagus nerve over the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And so I am like, oh, what you're saying, it's like, gosh, it's like a hidden secret that I just want
Right.
everybody to know about.
Exactly. I was like, what is this magic?
Right? Yes.
I was able to, through the knowledge I learned about how to care for my nervous system and that it could actually be fixed, right?
Yes.
And then the tinnitus went away and, with a little physical therapy, my back pain went away too. That can be
Yes.
managed. But yeah, all of these things through my life kind of brought me to where I am today, where I now want to tell everybody about the vagus nerve and your nervous
exactly.
system. Like,
That
yeah.
I feel like I relate so much to that, having my own healing journey
Oh,
and then eventually getting to that point where I just want to share all the pieces of my journey.
yeah.
Because I want the world to know all these things that I felt hidden from me. They
Right.
felt like I had to go on this treasure hunt and be curious and dig in. And I just felt like this treasure hunter for years,
Right.
trying to solve my own stuff,
Right.
And I'm like, does it have to be that hard for everybody? Can we just give this knowledge and freely for people to see?
Right.
And clearly we eventually come to learn it doesn't work that way.
Mm.
It's almost like as soon as you have that thought, the universe is like, oh, really?
Exactly. Yeah.
Here's your other challenge, And so it really, I believe these things we're talking about are a lifelong commitment
Yeah.
to, and so it's a great reminder that it's not one and done.
Right.
These are tools to learn in your toolbox.
Yeah.
And another thing I heard from you is, you're referencing medical doctors throughout,
Mhm.
plus spiritual and
Yeah.
your religion,
Yeah.
right? And now the vagus nerve. And so, we are holistic beings.
Yes.
There's more to us than any one diagnosis. There's more to us than any one bad decision we've made.
Right.
We are very complex. And so I feel like that curiosity to dig into that complexity is so powerful.
Yeah.
And to help us with that, I feel like the nervous system is something that is foreign to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you and I, it took until well into adulthood to
Yes.
learn more about that. So just from your personal experience, and then we're going to shift into you helping parents
Okay.
and children,
Yes.
but from your personal standpoint, as you did the work for your vagus nerve, what did that nervous system regulation tell us a little bit about that experience for you? What did you start noticing in your own body and
Mhm.
how your life felt as you addressed that nervous system?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, whenever I'm stressed, my jaw's the first one. Like how when I
Yeah.
start clenching my teeth and my
Yep.
jaw, get that jaw pain, I know I'm going somewhere. But so when I was working with my counselor, she, of course, trying to help me through all of this, was like, you need to do some breathing. We talked about different breathing techniques. I was so far gone into my anxiety that breathing was too hard. I
Wow.
just
Yeah.
couldn't. And I don't even remember how I learned about this or discovered it, but binaural beats, have you heard?
Oh, yes.
That is what saved my life. And I get
Yeah.
that from the masterclass that I took.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
listen to binaural beats for anxiety or stress release
Yes.
on the couch for 15 minutes. And
Yep.
that is what me out of it. And I was like, okay, well, now while I'm laying here, I can start to do some of this deep breathing
That's
I'm
right.
supposed to do. I can go for walks without headphones so that I'm hearing
Yes.
sounds and just slowly took care of it. But what I learned, and I think the best analogy I have is like your nervous system when you're really stressed is like a bowl of Cheerios. And every
Mhm.
time you do an exercise, it's like taking one Cheerio out of that bowl.
Yes. Yes.
So for a week, you're not going to notice much of a change. After
Yeah.
a month, there's a dent. 6 months, the bowl's a little, like half empty. Just
Yeah.
start to feel it. And I remember one day I was raising teenagers at the time,
Yeah.
which any parent who's raised teenagers, like they come at you with all kinds of random stuff.
Yep.
And my anxiety would just, I could get this random thought pop in my head. They would be out with friends and oh my goodness, what if they're in a car accident and nobody happens to have a phone and they're in the,
Yeah.
but it would send my nervous system, awry. My heart would start racing. I'd break out in sweats. I would be breathing very shallow. My thoughts, the only thing I could focus on would be this one thought and nothing would calm me
Yeah.
down. And so it was after doing these walks and the binaural beats and the breathing and some of like the humming that I had learned and the VU breath, if you're familiar with that, like
Yes. Yes.
bringing those things into what I was doing, I realized one day I had a thought pop in my head and it didn't freak me out. Like I didn't spiral. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this helps.
Yes.
It was
Good.
amazing to be able to like just take that thought and throw it aside. If something does happen, somebody will contact me.
Yep.
It'll be fine.
That's right.
Yeah.
What a change. I mean, that's a great example of that.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy. As you were telling that story, there was 2 or 3 times where I got full body
Oh.
goosebumps because I could feel the reminder, for like the moments I've used binaural beats. It's
Yeah.
almost like now just the mention of them.
Right?
My body calmed
Yeah.
because it triggered that thought, like,
Mhm.
wow, like it's almost like now it's like, the old triggers in my life used to cause me to derail, to cry,
Right.
to stress, to shut down. Now I feel like it's like my body is like, ooh, it's like a little hunk from the universe. It's like, oh, we like that.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yes,
And
it's good.
I love what you just said because so often we focus on those bad triggers, right?
Right.
We don't notice
Exactly.
the glimmers,
Yes,
where you have
it's
those
true.
experiences like, that just brought peace just even talking about it now.
Yeah.
And we can train ourselves to do that. Like,
That's right.
it comes with experience, just like getting into the bad stuff came from
Yeah.
experience. Those good things come from experience too.
Well, I I'm a parent. I have 3 teenagers, a son who just finished his first year in
Oh,
college,
that's
a
exciting.
daughter who is a senior, so she's graduating in a few weeks
Oh,
and moving to Boston in August to go to
oh,
college,
wow.
and then a junior who will be graduating next year. So it's like back to back. So,
Yeah.
we're in this season of almost empty nesters and just the craziness of watching your little humans like
Yes.
go out into the
I
world.
know.
And I can't imagine like, my own nervous system
Yes.
navigating this moment where I do have days of sadness. However, I have so much more joy and excitement for them and so
Mhm.
much belief in who they are. And it's
Yes.
just like, it's a mindset thing. Nothing necessarily
Right.
has changed in our situation. And
Right.
so I find that no matter what age parent you are, no matter what age kid you are, I feel like the tools that we're talking about today are just so helpful in improving your relationship, but also your just peace of mind for
Yes.
both parent and child to have some
Right.
shared knowledge of how our nervous system works.
Uh-oh.
I would guess that almost every parent wants to be that for their child.
Yeah.
And so I love that phrase. What does it actually mean to you?
What does
That
it
phrase, safe place parent. Yeah.
It means I wanted for me, and I want for every mom. I think we all want this.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to be the first person that my kids come to when
Yeah.
life gets hard. I want
Yeah.
them when they're in trouble. And
Yep.
I can't ever tell mom about this, but no, I encapsulated like the whole heart of what I do is helping to bridge that gap and bring
Yeah.
that connection back for parents.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
And that big heart of yours and that big heart, hurting in that harsh environment,
Yeah.
And now the way you've healed your own nervous system to be in a place to share that big heart.
Yeah.
I find just being a parent of teenagers, so many parents, myself included, there's just these phases where you feel like this shift in your little ones. They go from these littles who think that mom can do no wrong. And they
Right.
just look up to us with these big eyes and just love us so much.
I know.
And then all of a sudden overnight, it's like you're living with an alien who doesn't like you all of a sudden,
Right.
who rolls their eyes, who stops talking to you, and it's
Yes.
like, oh my gosh. And so wondering, just thinking of, people in that situation, what are some thoughts on the work that you do in getting to that safe place to be able to navigate those shifts and be a parent for your child for what they're going through instead of just negatively reacting and being pissed off at them all the
I know.
time.
Oh, there's so many places to start with this.
Yes, well,
you
you
know.
shift, take us where you want to go, and we'll just kind of keep
Yeah.
navigating because, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love this.
Well, as you were talking, there's one thing that keeps coming to that came to my mind, and it's a study that I just recently read about how at 12 years old, it is shown through brain imaging, that you're under 12 when your voice will light up your teen's brain or your kid's brain,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
There's that light up when you talk. At 12, that changes where your voice is no longer lighting up that part of the brain, but outside voices are lighting it up.
Oh,
And yeah, and
that's fascinating. I
it-
never learned that before.
I need to dig up this study. It's
Yeah, that's
brilliant.
cool. But it makes very much sense
Yeah.
to me from my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and they said literally it was so you could tell almost the age of the child by the brain scan because it was such a clear. So a lot of what I do with parents is one, just this is what's going on with your kid developmentally. Like it's not that they don't love you anymore. It's just that your voice does not light them up the same way that it used to. And that is healthy during the adolescent years. Teens start to figure out who their identity apart from their parents, right? So this is where we get all that rebellious stuff, right? All the stuff you've taught them, they need to figure out what the boundary is because they're trying to figure it out for themselves, right? Whether it's faith or your family values, whatever it is, they have to push that around and see, am I going to believe this? Does it work for me? And the second thing is their belonging. They're trying to figure out who their people are. And that's why those outside voices are now much stronger, right? They're trying to figure out what group do I belong in? Who are my friends? I often hear from teens, like, I just want somebody to love me who's not my parents, like somebody who doesn't have to. And the
Mhm.
third thing is their purpose. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do with their life. What job are they going to have? Who are they going to be in the world, like giving back? And we struggle with that then for the rest of our lives, right? It
Yeah,
starts there.
right.
But it's really hard during those teenage years because for parents, they're like, they're pulling away from me. So it's just understanding like that's what they need to do in order to go out into the world as adults and become a healthy adult, not still living in your
Mhm.
basement. Like you want
Yes.
this to happen. So I talk to them about that a lot. But then I also, one of the first things I tell every parent is in building that relationship, because teens don't want to be told what to do anymore. You can't tell them. So when they come talk to you, I call it the magic question. Ask them if they just need to vent, if they want advice, or do they want help coming up with a plan? And that gives the
Mhm.
teen the agency to say what they want. Because as moms, oh my gosh, we've lived through it. We want to give you all the advice so you don't make the same mistakes that we
Yes.
did. But they need to figure it out themselves. And our job is to be their sounding board, to listen to
Mhm.
them, to let them talk, and be there to help them through it when they fail, when they
Oh,
fall. So
yes.
that to us. So that's one of the first things that I do with parents is dive into that question. The second thing then that we get into is co-regulation. Like you
Mhm.
gotta have your shit together if your kid's gonna come talk to you. Because if you're losing it, when they come and say, hey, I need to let you know I went to this party Friday night and there was drugs and alcohol and, dot, 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 and your brain starts going,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
can't freak out. You have to take a
No.
deep breath and say, thank you for telling me. Let's, have a bigger conversation about it. I was such an anxious parent that I would often yell and scream and snap, and I was like, "This isn't who I wanna be."
Yeah.
I remember having a conversation right over there with my kid. He loves to argue, still to this day, he's my oldest, and I would just get into it with him, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, we're going back and forth, and I'm just escalating it, and I stood in the kitchen. He was, like, 16, so this is, like, 6 years ago, and I thought to myself, "Wait, I'm the adult in this relationship." I'm a former teacher. I know adolescent psychology, right? I know about my nervous system. I'm not helping him. I'm not teaching him
Right?
how to have a decent conversation. So I then needed to work on myself so that I could
Mhm.
not engage, not feel the need to engage, and just stay calm. And it ticked him off so bad when I stopped engaging, but after a while, it became something that he sought out. When he was having a bad day, he would reach out and be like, I need to talk to you because I became his co-regulator." So,
Yes.
and that's the process teens have to work through.
Mm.
Brain is developing their prefrontal cortex. They're learning how to manage their emotions, and we need to teach that to them.
I've so
Mhm.
experienced the co-regulation because I just shared over the last year really
Mhm.
addressed my nervous system. Even though I did years of therapy, I just like you, I've
Yeah.
had seasons where I thought I
Mhm.
was, smooth sailing,
Right.
but then we'd hit a new age with the kids or a new
Right.
life milestone in their world.
Yes.
My big thing was always keeping it together, and just letting little things from them feel like, disrespect for a lack
Mm.
of a better word,
Mhm.
these little nicks to me
Yeah.
that I never addressed in the moment, and
Right.
they would just be little. And I would think like, oh, I was doing things right because I wasn't blowing up at every little thing.
Right.
But then I would always have like a big blow up, because
Yes.
it was like I never addressed the little. That is notorious for our vacations.
Oh, yeah.
I plan everything, I book everything. We go on these epic trips around the world. And then,
Mhm.
like, the whole time, they're just, like they feel so, like, just annoyed with me
Yes.
and just, like. So, usually by the end, I blow up. They've all witnessed me, like, many times
Yes.
blow up at the end, and what I've learned in recent and definitely this year has been with my nervous system in a better place.
Mhm.
I don't have those blow ups, very
Right.
rarely if I do, but I do have moments. I'm human and I
Mhm.
feel annoyed or I feel
Right.
slighted, but I just address it in the moment and it's not a big deal.
Right.
It's like regulation has helped me be a better communicator because
Yes.
I think I'm so protective of how I feel that if something is triggering me, I need to address it right away because I can't have that piling up. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah.
I started as out because, selfishly thinking of my parentage
Mhm.
and my
Yeah.
teenagers. But maybe let's take a step back and just think holistically from a parent perspective, because you work with parents that have kids of all ages.
Right.
And obviously, there's, different unique things that are brought on. You even shared the development piece as far as kind of the way their brain is working. So, kind of holistically, as you think of the parents that you work with, are there some maybe generational themes like that kind of come across with people with littler kids?
So just to clarify, I work with generally parents of teenagers. So that's where I'm very well versed, just because of being a high school teacher. Yeah, like that's my sweet spot.
Fair.
I do have some clients who have younger kids, but I focus primarily on just nervous system stuff with them. But to answer your question, the generational theme is, and I had one mom who put this perfectly. She's like, look, I'm Gen X. I raised to not give an F about anything. And now I'm this mumbo jumbo about dealing with all the sensitivity stuff. I can't. Like, it's so hard. And I think that's the biggest struggle, because a lot of, most of the parents that I have right now are Gen X or elder millennial parents who grew up in that age of kind of, we raised ourselves, gone out and came back when the streetlights went off, drinking from the hose and all the crazy stuff. So it's teaching them like, okay, but how did that work out for you? What are you doing in that? And things are different. So it's finding some of that like middle ground, because I'm not saying the pendulum swings, the pendulum was that one way. And then, where we, like I said earlier, we didn't even talk about anxiety back then. We learned a certain way, and it swings all the way to the other side where everybody struggles with anxiety today. And we almost coddle too much the opportunity to build resilience. So it's finding that middle ground now where you are speaking about it and in tune with it with your kid and helping them walk through it, but also not like just coddling them through the whole thing. Yeah.
That's so true. I feel like it's I keep thinking of just fixing, controlling, overreacting. It's almost like I'm also a Gen X parent, and I have so many friends that are helicopter parents. It's almost like I feel like we didn't have the things we're talking about. So now it's like we have to obsessively, so I feel like it's like over the top sometimes. I feel like because we want to do the opposite of how we were raised.
Yes.
Yeah, our kids are latchkey kids. No, but they're not allowed to walk to the park until they're 20. It's like, what? So it's like, it's very extreme.
Exactly.
And so thinking of just like that whole fixing thing, control, I feel like parenting teenagers it's so sometimes hard not to do that, And I'm curious of just the path to help get away from that a little bit, how to break that habit a little bit and just kind of have a little bit more trust in your kids and live their life, to like, and trust that you're not going to be able to shield them from everything.
Right.
How do we help that mindset? Because I feel like it's coming very much from a protective place.
Yeah, because we can.
We love,
but yeah, so I hear two parts of this, so I'm going to try and answer them. Like, it's the giving advice, like when your kid comes, give advice, but then also letting them go out and not freaking out over it.
That's so true.
Yeah, so like the giving advice part, because I have a mom right now who was like, I cannot not give advice.
Yes.
And so deep breath and count to 10 and bite your tongue and listen. You need to listen to what your kid's saying, but at the same time, you're just like, don't say anything. So a lot of that I'm finding is some nervous system work, because we want to jump in to give them advice because we are worried. So we're trying to control the situation and the outcome, and we need to let go and back off. So it's take a deep breath, count to 10, like turn the emotion center off, bring the thinking center back on, so that you can handle this. And be curious, because you're going to want to talk. So instead of giving advice, just say, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. You're talking, but it's like, let's say it's kind of a hack, but it's a different way to give advice without giving advice, kind of leading, which is what they need. It's the coaching, involved in that.
Yeah.
And then when they go out and they're gone, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to end up in a ditch without phones and all this stuff. it's the same process, right? It's okay, take
Yeah.
it. What is the reality of the situation? For me, it was like, maybe I should stop watching true crime all the time. Maybe turn that off.
Becky, don't take my true crime.
No,
Us Gen Xers are obsessed with it,
we are.
you know?
I didn't. I just learned to. Couldn't stop. But I was like, what are the chances
I
with
hear
the
you.
evidence, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are we grew up doing so much more dumb stuff than these kids do today.
Yeah.
That is actually a problem.
Yeah, they can't believe it. My kids are like, oh my God.
I just heard something somewhere where I was like, there's almost like an epidemic of kids not being teens not being adventurous enough
it's
because
true.
they're not getting out
It's
there
true,
and
yeah.
learning. So as a parent, it's okay. What are the chances? Breath, do the nervous system reset, calm yourself down, get regulated so you can think logically.
Yes.
Because accidents do happen.
Of course.
My youngest is a road cycler,
Yeah.
and I was not thrilled with this. It's really
No,
hard for me
it's-
to
yeah.
just let him go. And so we made some compromises. He still had an accident. He'll hit a rock, flipped off his bike, and broke his collarbone. He was 20 miles as the crow flies. It was going to take us 30 minutes to drive there. He did text me, I fell off my bike. I need you to come pick me up. What do you mean? But there's the kindness of strangers out there. You know,
Aw,
people
yes.
stopped to take care of him. And it was such an amazing story how it had played out. You know, if I would have said, no, my anxiety cannot
Right.
handle you doing what
Yeah.
you love,
That's so true.
right? And I was like, that's not fair. That's not fair
Yes.
to him. So I need to
No.
trust in the world. It can
Yeah.
be a scary place, but kindness is still so prevalent out there. And we need to trust that and
Yes.
believe in that.
Mm.
And these sweet, kind strangers that we do not have names of and have never been able to thank took care of my baby, stuck alongside of the road, and got him on an ambulance. And we met him at the hospital. And he is perfectly fine. Brilliant story to tell. Or has not broken their collarbone. Like it was a rite of
Exactly,
passage.
yes.
You know, so
Yes.
yeah, bad things are going to happen. But we
Mm.
can't let our anxiety stop our kids from doing what they love. And
It's so true.
yeah, and so it was that I think was the biggest realization for me that helped me reframe and like really, again, do the nervous system work that I was doing and needed to do to just trust the situation. Unfortunately, having that experience was like, okay, we did it. We survived this.
That's right.
It's fine. We can
Yes.
move on.
That's huge. I mean, to me, it brings us back. I'll keep coming back to this, you know, the idea that we ever arrive. We
Right.
figured it all out, and then life stops happening to us, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, it really was powerful for me to eventually realize that I have had a really hard life. I've had a lot of chronic trauma and severe trauma. I'm so grateful my kids haven't had that level in their life. However, and I do know that hardship is going to come
Right.
their way, and they have had their own challenges and hurdles. And yet, for me, I know personally my growth came from the hard things.
Right.
You know, there's so much that is blessed that grew because of my hardest moments in my life.
Yeah.
And sometimes I kind of started feeling almost selfish to try to protect my kids so much
Yes.
and keep that from them.
Yes.
You know,
Exactly.
because I think living life fully
yeah.
and unlocking your purpose and following your gut. And as you were talking, I was reminded of one question or one piece of advice we do give our kids. I've really tried so hard not to tell them anymore, especially they're young adults essentially.
Right.
But one thing when they do come to me for advice, you know, we usually ask them the kind of questions that you shared about their nervous system. But then at the end of the day, I just keep coming back to them and saying, what is your body telling you to do?
Yeah.
What is your body telling you to do? You know, and if you
Yeah.
don't know yet, then do the techniques to get to that.
Yes.
Because, you know, I might have an opinion with what you're asking, and one of the things might sound safer to me.
Right.
But I also came to learn that, gosh, like my insecurities and my fears and the things that hurt me as a child, my kids have different insecurities. They have different fears.
Yes.
And so it's like what I feel in my body is not what they feel in their body.
Right.
And they need to know what they feel in their body.
Yeah. And that is so huge because part of the training that I just did was very different than the masterclass that I had taken years ago. Same instructor. And it was very trauma informed, where the process that she walked us through that I now use with my clients is all about listening to what your body is telling you. And a lot of those signals that our body, our senses send to our brain get identified as a threat instead, right? And so then we start freaking out about everything, or those they come up very muted and we don't know what they are. We're not listening to our bodies well enough because we're go, 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 go. So I love that you do that, to take the time to regulate yourself and really tune in to what your body is telling you, because I mean that is going to take them so far in life. Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's neat. I feel like as you do that more and more, they start naturally doing that. And then the
Yes.
things they come and tell you, it's like, wow. It's like
Yes.
their light bulb eventually goes off in a way that is bigger than what you could have imagined for them.
Exactly.
It's really so neat to watch them grow
Oh.
into their full self.
It is. It is. That is wonderful. I love it.
So we're going to shift gears a little to a segment we call Rapid Reel.
Okay.
And these are just quick little kind of instinctive answers, nothing to think too much about.
Okay.
So the first one is, for you personally, what's a sign that you might notice to tell you that your nervous system maybe needs some attention?
No, it's always my jaws.
You mentioned that. Oh, that's
Yeah, I
right. Your
did.
jaw. Mine too. When I
yeah.
catch that, yes.
I can be walking
Yes.
around the house and be like, why is my jaw hurting? And I'm like, oh, shoot, I'm going to get worried about something soon.
That's
I
good.
don't know. That's always my jaw.
Wow, that's so true. Yes. All right. Well, actually, I'm going to take that one step deeper.
Okay,
and I'll
go
do
for it.
the next question will be kind of a follow up to that. When you notice that, when you have that jaw clenching, what is something, an activity or something that you might do to kind of learn about that or do something to release that?
Yeah, I always go to binaural beats. I was like, I need to do this again. Now having this course, like I know other techniques that I can also do. So I'm learning to incorporate those in. I'm also a very hard-headed person where I'm like, it's fine, I'll get over it. So, and I try to muscle through longer than I should. But yeah, so my go-to,
Yes.
if I'm being smart and on a good day
Of
and I
course,
feel it, then
yes.
I'm like, okay, popping in the earbuds, laying on the couch, listening to some binaural beats.
Yeah, that's perfect. I hear you, though. We're all imperfect on this. So, yeah, this is directional. We're not saying we
Exactly.
do this 24/7.
Hey,
you
it's
know?
messy and I'm going to be honest about it.
That's right. Exactly right. So, what is a parenting myth that you wish would disappear?
Well, that is a very good question. That the teenage years, you just have to survive.
That's good.
I don't like, we can thrive through them. Like really enjoy your teens. It's just usually it's just a couple tweaks, you know?
Yeah.
They change overnight. And it's just your parenting
Right.
style then also has to change. And we don't always know what that means. Just a couple tweaks in what you're doing and it brings that back.
But how would you describe your parenting style today?
Oh my gosh, it has changed so much.
Right? Isn't that crazy?
Yes,
It's wild, isn't it? It's like you're a different mom
Yeah.
through every season.
Yeah, and
And
I have to give kudos to my kids because they really taught me a lot about how to be a better mom to a parenting.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
I went into this parenting like my mom did, you know, back in, and my oldest has always been very open about setting me straight. Like you always do this. And
Oh, yeah.
you know, but I started listening to him and he's usually right. And then my youngest too, getting him to realize he can talk to me too. And so they would say, Mom, like when you ask me questions, like I would check in on things. He's like, when you do that, it makes me think that you don't trust me. And I was like, yeah, so I can't
makes
do
sense.
that. So they've
Oh.
really humbled me and taught me over the years. So I don't like, you know, there's so many different parenting styles. There's gentle parenting, and now there's like a new one,
yeah.
like beta parenting. I think I just heard about like,
Yeah.
and I think maybe if I was to categorize myself, I'd probably fall more in the gentle parenting kind.
Yeah.
I just like to parent from the facts of the
Yes.
development where they are from. And to me, love is huge and love heals so much. And so I just always want to make sure I show up with unconditional love first. It was a journey to get there. I realized I was not doing that. And I'm not a perfect parent by any
No,
shape. Still
no,
with young adults.
I've yet to meet one.
Right, they don't exist.
I've met people that think they are,
Yeah.
but I've never met one.
That's so
Yeah.
true. So true. So yeah, that's kind of my parenting
I
style.
love that. That was beautiful.
Oh,
I really
thanks.
love that
Thank
answer.
you.
And then the last one is more general. So
Okay.
again, kind of back to just in general, thinking of the folks that you've worked with
Yeah.
and parents and their teenage relationship. What's kind of a phrase or a thought that comes to mind after kind of this work has been done and there is a relationship working from that unconditional love on both sides?
Yeah.
What are some thoughts that come to mind of what that looks like between a parent and their
Oh,
teenager?
that is such a great question. I'm trying to think what I've heard is like usually like, oh my gosh, my kid is talking to me,
Yeah.
or I do a lot of the Enneagram also. I'm familiar with that.
Yes, we love that in our
Yeah.
house. Yes.
So
All
do
that
we.
stuff. We love all the assessments.
Oh
We got
yeah.
Myers-Briggs,
Oh
human
yes.
design, Enneagram, you name it.
Yeah.
If we can assess it, we want to know about it.
The Enneagram was the
Yes.
one that really stuck with me the most. And
Yeah.
so I incorporate that in. And so, what I hear a lot from the parents is, oh, so that's why my kid does XYZ. That's why our kids, how we are wired. And then they
Yes.
realize he was very
Yeah.
much an extrovert and my kid should be socializing. He should be wanting to hang out, but I have to pull him out of his room. And I was like, okay, well,
That's
let's
right.
talk about it. Enneagram
Yeah.
5, which means he's going to reserve his energy,
Yeah.
not going to do that.
Yeah.
Let go. Just let that go.
Yes.
So that's what I hear a
Mhm.
lot of is like, oh, I understand now how they're wired, where they're
Yes.
coming from. They're coming to me. We're actually having conversations now. Like, that's the kind of stuff. And just the reward from the parent, of
Yeah.
I didn't think we were ever going to have this. I didn't think that trust was ever going to come back. But now we have an
Wow.
amazing relationship. So,
Oh, that's so beautiful. And
yeah.
I relate. I feel like you're walking me through so much like a walk down memory lane with the ups and downs of my
Right,
parenting
yeah.
journey,
Right.
and I was one of those parents that I always wanted a daughter at first.
Yeah.
That was like I always knew I'd be a mom of a girl at some point. And I just always pictured that we would, she'd be this mini me,
Right,
and that
yeah.
I love concerts. I love food. I love
Yeah.
going to nice restaurants. And I always pictured getting to do that. I didn't grow up with a sister. So I was like,
Okay.
oh, I pictured that,
Yeah.
right? Well, my daughter doesn't. She likes very few food. She doesn't really like going out to eat. She hates going to concerts. It's like, wow. So I feel like the universe, very much, I believe, gives you the people
Yeah.
that are going to challenge you, to
Yes.
have to go deeper than the surface level things, And
Yes.
as over the years I did this work and got to know her, I had some heartbreaking moments and realizations, like one time I did the Strengths Finders,
Yeah.
back to another assessment. I did Strengths Finders for kids when
Okay.
she was 5.
Okay.
And I was so passionate
Yeah,
about
right.
it. So when I did hers and I found out hers were my 2 bottom ones,
Right.
I cried because I was
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, like mine are words of affirmation and physical touch,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Hers were gifts and quality time. And so like when I would try to like hug her and and it's like looking
Mhm.
back, I could feel that wasn't comforting to
Right.
her, and
Yeah.
just that little bit of knowledge. And then now with her as a young adult, actually talking and hearing her thoughts, there's just so much about her that I never understood. Like
Yeah.
there's things in her mind that is like, it almost feels like now I'm getting to know her as a brand new person
Yeah.
because we both are more of a healed nervous system.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. And that is so true. We went through the same things in my house because we always thought we would have 3 girls. We had names picked out. I was looking forward to being a
Yeah.
girl. But no, we had 2 boys.
Yeah.
And they were so different. But yeah, like they don't like any of the same stuff that I, did growing up.
Yeah.
But I just love the conversations that we have and getting to know and see what they're so excited about and how they are thriving. And then if I'm
Yes.
really honest, we are similar in ways that I just,
Yes.
peg right away,
That's
So,
right.
yeah,
It's
it's
so
there.
true. And then I went on to be a blended family. So I have a son
Oh,
now
yeah.
and another daughter, and there's plenty of times throughout the seasons where me and my son are actually the closest.
Oh,
It's like misconceptions growing up. And it's
Yeah.
just, you come in with the expectation. And I think that's a big part of it too.
Yes.
That I've learned from my own parenting is really releasing my expectation. It's
Yes.
just being more fluid into more about who they are.
Yes.
They didn't choose to be here. It's like we brought them into this world And it's like not my job to make them mini me's.
Right.
It's my
Yes.
job to be fluid in whatever they, and so
Yes.
releasing that expectation has been so powerful in our
Yes.
household.
Oh, I love that. You're not manufacturing these little mini me's, but you're
No.
helping mold and grow the clay into what it's
Yes.
supposed to be.
Clay, yes, we're helping mold their soul. It's
Yes.
like their soul journey. We're just helping, here as little lights along their own path,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
This is such a great conversation.
Oh,
And we
yeah.
have one final question that we
Okay.
always ask our guests. But before I get to that, is there anything that we didn't get to yet that you really wanted to hit home on? And then also just a little blurb about how folks can connect with you and your work. And I will also post any links that you
Okay.
have. Well, I'll be out when I share the podcast.
Yeah, sure. I think we covered everything. I mean, we talked
Okay,
we talked
good.
about a lot.
We went deep.
I gave away my whole package. No.
Yes.
So folks, if you want to come at me, I am on Instagram at Becky Funk Coaching DM. I love chatting with people just about their journeys and where they're at. I also offer some free resources. One being how to tell if it's anxiety or just typical teen stuff. I get that question so often from parents.
That's a good one.
So I put together a little free resource to walk you through how to make that decision and what you can do. And the co-regulation that we talked about is a large component of this. So I go into detail in this resource of what you can do. That I include the magic question in that. So if you're like, what did you say about that? Like, just get the
Oh, yeah, I love
resources.
that.
And then if you want to work with me, I have a signature package, one-on-one coaching. But a lot of parents want to get to know me first before that. So I have a quick nervous system reset, and you want to just know a little bit more about your nervous system and what all this is. You can do that. Or if I mentioned the Enneagram and that really piqued your interest, I have an offer called Understand Your Teen, where I type the mom and the teen, and I can tell
Love
you,
that.
how you're compatible, where you're going to clash, how to minimize conflict, how
Oh, I
to
love that.
motivate effectively and communicate compassionately. All the things you want.
Wow.
You get
Oh,
you get your own little personalized grow your teen manual.
I would have loved to have met you like 6-7 years ago.
Right? I know. I wish I would have had this 6 or 7 years ago.
Never fair.
Yeah.
Well, Becky, I have just loved talking to you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for joining me today. And for our listeners, if something in our conversation resonated with you, here's just a few ways that you can bring some of this into your own family. First of all, go get Becky's resources. They sound incredible. So I highly recommend you going to her links that we'll share, connect with her if you have direct questions. But also just remember that connection almost always creates more lasting change than control. So start noticing your own nervous system before trying to manage your kids. That awareness indirectly is going to help strengthen that connection. And third, give yourself permission to stop chasing perfect parenting. You heard us mention a few times today the times that we felt imperfect, and that is pretty much every day I have those moments. And so just remember that your presence, repair, willingness to stay connected matter so much more than any little misstep that you have or you feel you have along the way. So friends, thank you for joining us. Until next time, stay messy. Thank you. Before we wrap today, I want to invite you to be part of the Becoming is Messy community. Subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And if there's anything that resonates with you, please leave a review. Your feedback means the world to me, and it helps other people find this community. Follow me on social media. I'd love to hear your ideas for future topics, your questions, and stories from your own messy moments. And if you're feeling inspired, check out the Becoming is Messy shop, where you can grab a mug, a t-shirt, or something else that reminds you to embrace your messy magic every single day. A huge thank you to the incredible Wolves and Sheep for providing the music for Becoming is Messy. Check them out on your favorite music streaming platform. As we close out today's episode, remember this: messy is just another word for growing. So keep showing up, keep laughing, and keep making beautifully awkward progress. Until next time, stay messy, my friends.